The Pathfinder was released during the 10th anniversary event as one of the few balanced releases in recent times, and it's now made its way into free-to-play accessible methods of obtaining it, such as the blue datapads, black market during special events, and the offers. This is an extensive guide on how to play the Pathfinder, going in-depth on Pathfinder's kit and how it works, which weapons, drones, pilots, pilot skills, and specializations to use. I'll only be covering some of the most popular weapon choices, including its signature weapons, and I'll also be rating them. But of course, not every weapon will be mentioned here, and if you don't see a particular weapon mentioned throughout the video or just have any questions in general, leave a comment and ask me about it. I will be using two different Pathfinders throughout this guide. One at Mark II Level 1 with Level 1 specializations and drones ranging from levels 1 through 4, so it's more accurate to what a free-to-play experience might be like, and one at Mark III with max specialization and max drones, just so you can see how it performs when heavily invested into. Although note that they will share a pilot since my memoriam funds always look this bad. The primary focus of this guide will be on the Mark II Pathfinder, with only a small section at the end dedicated to the Mark III one. So if I mention a Pathfinder and its specifications throughout this guide, know that it's the Mark II one unless otherwise indicated. For the mothership, I will be using the Avalon since it was rebalanced and is more accessible to free-to-plays now. The guide is targeted for players in Masters or Champions League, so if you are in a lower league, take what I say with a grain of salt for some aspects of Pathfinder. Mainly weapon choices that I say are not worth running will perform well in the lower leagues. And just one last thing before I start, a lot of time and effort goes into these types of videos, so a like or maybe even subscribing would make my day. Thanks, and with that out of the way, let's fly right into it. The Pathfinder was recently rebalanced with a 25% durability nerf, speed going from 50 to 47 km per hour, and a small buff of the ability cooldown going from 12 to 10 seconds. The nerf has made it quite a bit more fragile than before, but way more lethal. Pathfinder can more quickly build up stacks of the ability and start destroying anything that comes within range. Its firepower is considerable at base with 3 medium slots, but can be inflated to have the firepower of almost 8 medium weapons with its abilities. Pathfinder's active ability is called Track and can be used on any enemy within 600 meters of Pathfinder. When activated, it locks the enemy down, applies death mark of 40%, and applies the Hunter effect. Also, a big arrow gets applied on the enemies, signaling that I am a valuable target and you will get boost if you destroy me. If the enemy is destroyed with the track on it, then the robot that gets the kill, as well as any that get an assist on that robot, will have their speed increased by 10%, their damage increased by 20%, and durability and gray durability restored based on the mark of the Pathfinder that applied the track. It's important to know that if your Pathfinder applied the mark and the enemy is destroyed under the influence of the mark, then no matter if you got a kill, an assist, or nothing at all, then your Pathfinder will receive the bonuses. These bonuses can stack up to 6 times for a total of 120% extra damage and 60% extra speed. Pathfinder actually has a passive ability as well, Enfeeble, which simply applies 40% suppression to any enemy that shoots at it within 800 meters of range. You'll know if you have the Enfeeble active when you see the red reflector looking thing around Pathfinder. Is it worth it to take Pathfinder to Mark III? If you're willing to stick to it, then the Pathfinder is 100% worth the investment. At Mark III, Pathfinder gets 1 extra charge of the Enfeeble and extra durability healing. The extra charge helps with survivability, and the extra healing means Pathfinder can get back to full health when taken down to extremely low numbers. As for long-term investment, I think that Pathfinder has a relatively low chance of getting nerfed again. It's a bit fragile now and can be countered easily if played wrong. Is the Pathfinder worth it for your hangar? With the addition of playing for multiple hangars, Pathfinder is absolutely worth it for your hangar. It requires very low investment for you to see massive returns, and virtually any weapon is good on it once charged up, and it can even deal significant damage to Titans. The only real problems Pathfinder has is with its durability, and the fact that it takes significant skill to play, but once mastered it can single-handedly change the tide of battle. Pathfinder only has one signature pilot available, John Orsted, so there's nothing to really compare him to. He simply gives Pathfinder 3 seconds of shield breaker when the ability is activated, so it becomes like a mini crisis. He is by far the most influential pilot for Pathfinder, so any general pilots will be beat out by him. The best pilot skills for Pathfinder are health skills, since the rebalance took out some of its health. Death Survivor is good on Pathfinder as well because of its almost instant application. The rest, like damage and speed skills, will be negligible since Pathfinder gives itself so much damage and speed boosts. although leaving some skills open for weapon skills like Powerman for Weber or Shocktrain, and shot grouping skills is also an option. Pathfinder has the support specialization available, which gives it access to the repair amp, robot accelerator, last stand, and cloaking. The attack and defense aren't even worth mentioning since Pathfinder's best in slot is support. Honestly, for Pathfinder you can pick any combination of these, since they will all do well for it. It can repair itself enough times to activate the repair amp, and the robot accelerator adds base speed, so the speed bonus from stacks will be greater. I generally prefer last stand to cloaking, but either works, and I personally run the accelerator and the last stand, but it's up to you. For active modules, phase shift to counter other Pathfinders and the unstable conduit work best. And quantum radar can be used in combination with the pilot to break shields and see stealth. For drones at levels 1 through 4, Pathfinder doesn't really have any that synergize with its abilities, but Shai, Glider only with phase shift, and Reviver can work somewhat well. For Pathfinder, drones that give it defense points are really recommended, so for max drones, the best one is Armadillo, since it works so well with Pathfinder's kit, stacking up defense points as Pathfinder gets kills. Frizo is next, and while actually having a bit more utility in Pathfinder than Armadillo, it is one of the most niche drones in the game, only taking full effect on Pathfinder and the Ultimate Raker. And how many of you actually have the Ultimate Raker? Providing great damage resistance and defense makes Pathfinder extra tanky after someone shoots it, but Armadillo is better since it can be swapped out to other bots, while Frizo cannot be. Shai is also a good choice when upgraded since it can provide defense points and gives the option for a double last stand, or a last stand and a first stand. Pathfinder starts out as a support bot, but later in the match can transform into a damaged juggernaut, and trade in all of the waiting that has to be done in order to charge up into satisfying payoff. Pathfinder is best played as a first drop, to use its ability and lock enemies down before they can get to the center beacon and have lockdown immunities. When you have less than 3 stacks, do not engage or go out into the open. Stay back and wait for your team to start moving forward and attacking. Stay with strong teammates and support them to get stacks. Getting 3 or more stacks seems to be the tipping point, when Pathfinder's damage goes from pretty good to 1 clipping or 1-shotting enemies, and when you can start going out in the open, and are actually able to counter enemies. Weapons with less than 350 meters of range are not recommended on Pathfinder. They can work, just not as consistently as some other options with longer ranges. Pathfinder actually has a little trick you can do with its ability that allows you to track an enemy that is outside the 600 meters of range of the ability. Pathfinder has a 1-second cast time on the ability, and casting it on an enemy within range and quickly switching to an enemy that is outside the 600 meters of range will cast the ability on the enemy instead. For your viewing convenience, I split this section up into chapters based on the individual weapon families, and I'll rate them based on how well they perform in Pathfinder. Although I do want to add that the ranking system is skewed for Pathfinder, since it can make mid weapons perform really well. Even Punisher T. So any weapon on this list is at least a B tier for Pathfinder, and some are only ranked below to show how well they perform specifically on Pathfinder. The signature weapons released with Pathfinder are also one of the best weapons for it. The damage is very good and is able to freeze a lot of enemies at once with a unique freeze blast effect and normal freeze, which are not protected by cleanse from the Avalon and Bifrost. They offer a unique firing angle that allows for fire above cover, which is highly recommended for Pathfinder, and they are able to activate the Frizo drone. They are able to be fired in sequence so that they have a higher chance of getting kills. Their only problem is that they sometimes bug out and can't hit some moving targets, which is completely overridden with Pathfinder's lockdown. A+ tier. The definition of mid. Honestly, these weapons fell off so hard. They provide lockdown, which Pathfinder does on its own, and the damage isn't spectacular. Only when charged can they start doing some damage. C tier. These used to be second to only the Chione when the Pathfinder was first released, but their nerf hit hard and the fire rate is terrible and can only get off 1 full clip. They also don't apply any negative effects. When charged, the damage does start to become really good, although you want to always shoot the first shot into a wall somewhere, since it's the second and third shots that do the good damage. Overall an alright choice, and available in the workshop, but there are better options. B tier. Imagine being tier 3 weapons that are better than the Pulsar and Hazard. good burst damage that can cause catastrophic damage to enemies with minimal stacks, and once stacks are built up, tear through the paint of almost any enemy. Not great against Titans though, and sustained fire is not their strong suit. They also don't apply any negative effects, meant for pure damage, A tier. I am going to assume that these won't get another nerf, maybe for damage but nothing else. They're pretty balanced as is for almost any bot except the Pathfinder. On Pathfinder, these are like the Chione but on steroids. The damage of these is insanity, and Titan Slayer is pretty common with them. They'll often miss on other bots, but with lockdown they have perfect accuracy. When using these and locking an enemy down, start firing first, and lock the enemy as soon as the first round hits for maximum effectiveness. I assume that they'll come to the blue datapads within the coming months so free-to-plays can get their hands on them more easily. S+ tier. Recently downgraded to tier 3, the Weber are the overperformers of the Railgun family. Because of Pathfinder, when stacked up, these can one-shot bots with high defense points because they can completely mitigate them, even taking massive chunks of health out of Titans. The only real problem these have is a tendency to miss if not aiming directly at the target, but their damage output is so high it's well worth it. And if you decide to use these, run the Powerman skill for faster reload, S tier. These are some of the most broken stuff to run on the Pathfinder at the moment, coming with extra damage at ranges above 350 meters. If ran with QR along with the shield breaker from the pilot, these are literally unstoppable. But do not invest in them. They will 100% be nerfed in the future and will drop down the ranks on their effectiveness for Pathfinder, S+ tier. Thanks for making it to the end. If you enjoyed, it would mean the world if you gave this video a thumbs up or maybe even subscribed. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.